Why Florida's Attorney General said last month that if ChatGPT were a person, it would be facing charges for murder. And yesterday, the widow of a man killed in the 2025 Florida State University shooting filed a federal lawsuit that essentially asks a court to take that argument seriously. Because on Sunday, attorneys for Vandana Joshi filed a federal lawsuit in the Northern District of Florida. Her husband, Tiru Chava, was 45 years old. He was a regional vice president for the company that ran food service at Florida State University. He had a wife, he had kids, and on April 17th, 2025, he was killed in a shooting on the FSU campus. In this lawsuit, it names two defendants. The first is the man who's accused of carrying out the shooting, a then 20-year-old FSU student, now 21, charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 7 counts of attempted murder. He's pleaded not guilty. His trial is scheduled for October. And then the second defendant is OpenAI, right? The company that makes ChatGPT. And the legal argument is that the AI chatbot spent months in conversations with the shooter, conversations that, taken together, should have triggered some kind of safety response. But that system appears to have failed to do so. And so her attorney put the case this way, saying, quote, he literally utilized OpenAI and ChatGPT as his co-conspirator. That's the allegation. Right? And according to the complaint, which is built on ChatGPT chat logs released by Florida law enforcement, this shooter went roughly 18 months talking to the chatbot. And the attorneys say that the chat history covers about 16,000 different exchanges. And it was just everything, right? Homework help, workout advice, relationship questions, loneliness, bullying, depression. And by the plaintiff's account, the AI was friendly, engaged, sympathetic. It became, in effect, a daily presence in his life. But also threaded through those routine exchanges, the lawsuit alleges, there was a separate set of conversations. Conversations about Hitler, about Nazism, about prior mass shootings, including Columbine and Virginia Tech, right? About what kinds of attacks attract national media attention. And the complaint actually quotes a response in which the chatbot allegedly told the shooter that attacks involving children are more likely to generate national coverage. And it's that specific exchange that's kind of drawn the most attention since the suit was filed. Though the lawsuit also alleges that the shooter uploaded images of firearms that he had gotten and that ChatGPT provided operational advice on how to use them. Things including, according to the lawsuit, specific instructions about the weapon used in the attack. And so the core legal claim is, and this is where a lot of people are going to be paying attention, is that the alleged shooter had extensive conversations with ChatGPT, which cumulatively would have led any thinking human to conclude that he was contemplating an imminent plan to harm others. It's saying, however, ChatGPT either defectively failed to connect the dots or else it was never properly designed to recognize them. And so the suit, it alleges negligence, gross negligence, strict products liability, defective design, failure to warn, negligent entrustment, and wrongful death. Now, as far as OpenAI, they've denied the lawsuit's core claim. Their spokesperson telling ABC News and NBC News, quote, last year's mass shooting at Florida State University was a tragedy, but ChatGPT is not responsible for this terrible crime. And their argument is kind of in 3 parts. 1, the information that ChatGPT provided was, in their words, factual responses to questions with information that could be found broadly across public sources on the internet. 2, the product did not, in their characterization, encourage or promote illegal or harmful activity. And 3, when they became aware of the shooting, they identified an account believed to be associated with the suspect and proactively shared that information with law enforcement. And then with that, you also have OpenAI saying that they're continuing to strengthen safeguards to detect harmful intent. So that's their defense, and whether that holds up, it's going to depend on the question that the lawsuit explicitly tees up. Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, right, which is the law that shields internet platforms from being held responsible for user-generated content. It's essentially what you've seen protect Facebook from being sued every time someone posts something harmful. But also, this lawsuit anticipated that move and argues that Section 230 does not apply here because ChatGPT is not a passive platform. They're saying it's not hosting other people's words. OpenAI created the model, trained the model, and operates it as an active conversational product that generates its own responses. And so that distinction, right, between a platform that hosts user content and a product that generates content is one that courts really haven't settled when it comes to generative AI. And so what you're going to see is that this lawsuit and then others like it, they're going to push that question out into the open, right? Because there are also other lawsuits like this. In Canada, families of 7 victims from a February school shooting in Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia, they filed a similar lawsuit against OpenAI. Right? And that was an attack that killed 6 students between 12 and 13 years old and a teacher. And actually with that, you had the Wall Street Journal reporting that OpenAI's own automated moderation tools had flagged the alleged shooter's chats for content violations months before the attack, right? For graphic descriptions of violence. And so the case there argues that OpenAI knew and just didn't act, right? More of these stories are popping up. You had CBS News also reporting this week that the suspect in last month's killings of 2 University of South Florida graduate students allegedly used ChatGPT to figure out how to dispose of a body in the lead up to the disappearances. So what we're talking about today is not a one-off, and this case here, it's going to have an impact, right? Because you've got a growing category of cases that are going to ask courts a question that the legal system's never asked before. What is the legal responsibility of an AI company when a user appears to be planning violence using a chatbot and the chatbot does not escalate it? And then also there's going to be a question of, do we actually see criminal charges versus just a civil lawsuit? And also, honestly, whether it's this story or anything I covered today, I'd really love to know your thoughts. Because yes, this is a news show, but I also like it to be a conversation, because without the conversation, it's just all bad stuff all the time. And we already have enough of that.